Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and I previewed earlier a segment on the reels that came into my shop this week, and I finished it. For those of you that may not have watched the video to the end, I finished it with somewhat of a surprise. A captain from Long Island, a fellow named Captain Jim. He owns the Osprey fleet out of Port Washington on the North Shore of Long Island. Called me up as a result of my YouTube videos and asked me if I could repair some of his boat's fishing reels. That they were Jigmasters, and if I had the time, this was his time to work on getting them rehabbed and getting them serviced and getting them ready for the spring when they go out fishing again. So he does saltwater fishing in the Long Island Sound. And we had a nice conversation. The introduction was actually made by one of our viewers, Nick, and I appreciate him passing along my service information to the captain. And at any rate, we made arrangements, and Captain Jim dropped off some Jigmasters for me to service. And actually, he dropped off 80 Jigmasters to service. So I thought I would spend a minute here on this video kind of taking you through the process when you're going to deal with a lot of reels as opposed to one-off reels. You know, it's always easy for me to do a video and say, you know, this is how you service, for example, here's a Calcutta. This is how you service a Calcutta, and just focus on the single process of taking it apart, cleaning it up, lubricating it, putting it back together, and so on. But how do you do it when you're faced with a lot of them and not spend, you know, the time that would take you to do one of these, for example? So I thought that might make for a short but interesting video. So you can come into the inner workings of my mind. I'll take you through how I'm doing it, and always curious about how you might do it as well. So before I do that, I want to take a moment to thank all of our first responders, all of our essential personnel, everybody involved in keeping us safe during the pandemic. And everybody trying to keep us business as usual, and those include transport workers, they include the truckers bringing supplies to our food stores, it includes the teachers and everybody in education that's trying to do their part to continue to have our children learn while being remote and being at home and trying to avoid the problems of the pandemic. Thank you so much for everything that you do, and we need to do our part, right? Looks like we're back in phase 2. Looks like we're going for numbers that are even worse than the early spring. And we need to do our part by masking up, maintaining our social distance. And I think what's going to come to in the near term is, you know, it's going to be travel for essential purposes only and the like, which we saw earlier. And hopefully during the holiday season, we'll be cognizant of that as we make our holiday plans. So how did I do this? So 80 Jigmasters. Well, of course you can do them serially. So here's a Jigmaster. You can do this serially. You can do just what I did before. You can take this one apart and part it all out, clean up each piece, make sure after an inspection that everything is working properly, lube it, oil it, replace any broken parts, and then move on to the next one. But to me, there's, you know, Henry Ford was great with his automation and interchangeable parts, and that's not exactly what I decided to do. And here's a good example. So this one, the handle is frozen. It's got a replacement handle on it. It's frozen. It got salted over. He fishes in salt water. There's clear evidence from the greening on these that these don't get hosed down after use, and they probably just sit on the rods and fish until they break, and then they're put in a bucket that says broken, right? So I looked at this, and this one is sitting on the side because one of the things I did was I tried to cull out the ones that I can fix right away versus the ones that are going to require some additional work. In this case, the tie-down screw on here is broken. It's got a butterfly in it. You can't get that out. It's seized in with the salt and the like. That's going to have to get drilled out. The handle is broken in that the knob is not working, and I didn't spend any time on this yet. It looks like we have a tie down here, but I did a video on on the YouTube a while ago showing you how to take a simple fix. not that expensive and repair the handles, and it involves using a cabinet knob. So I'm going to be doing that. I'll be replacing the broken knobs, and there's reels here where the handles don't have knobs, and I will be replacing them with these, by the way, that I did that video. Okay, so what do? I got 80 of these reels. I got 4 buckets that look just like this. So the first thing I did was, if I can't get to the interior of the reel, I set that reel aside, because there's no method or no reason at this point to bog down. For the ones that I could do, I took off the side plate, and I took the, that's the gear side plate. It's a single screw removal system. In this case, the single screw broke, and it's kind of screwed in alternatively with a fixed screw, so you can't use your hand to untighten it, but nonetheless, you can get it off. So I took off the side plate. I left the last one in, and then I put it in a little cleaning solution. Now, my cleaning solution and yours might be different, but what I did was I used Lime-A-Way, which has got a sulfuric acid in it, and I diluted that, about 2 parts water to 1 part Lime-A-Way. Put the casing in here. That will get rid of the green scaling on this, but it also sometimes leaves a kind of a residue on there. Now, don't leave it in long if you're going to do that, because it will start to chew away more than just the lime and the corrosion. Leave it in there for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and when you go to remove that, wear gloves, because it's got an acid on there and you don't want to hurt your hands. So I will come back and I will use Flitz polish, or my toothbrush mechanism that you've seen me use on others, or chrome polish or whatever. If I use the chrome polish, I'm going to need to use some steel wool, and you'll just see. I'm just going to do this right now very quickly. You will see where that soapy residue comes right off. It'll shine it right up. So one of the benefits of him bringing all these reels here is every one of them is going to get nice and clean, in addition to getting serviced of any mechanical issues that are out there. So what I found on most of this was the mechanical issues seem to be broken springs, trapped line, and every now and then just missing screws and things like that. They don't seem to be terrible. You can see how nicely that just cleaned up by itself. 2 parts water, 1 part Lime-A-Way, 15 minutes soak. Don't put any of the moving parts in there, so don't put the gear side in there. We'll deal with the gear side later. And then when you come back, I actually use a Penn Reels rod and reel cleaner. This is the product there. It's a rod and reel cleaner. And I'm kind of amazed they did it. Not because it's a Penn reel, but here's an example. I used that on the back end. This one looked very much like this did on the back end of the side plate, and it really does shine it up nicely. And it does a beautiful job. That bottle is about $15. But if you're interested in keeping your reels nice, that's how it works. And actually, this is what happens when it all gets cleaned up. You can see that the chassis of this, which looked very much the same way, this being an older style with the bars rather than the single crossbar, and the spool, when I do that, that all goes into a bucket for stage 2, right? So right now I've got 80 reels in parts, some of them more along than others, and that's how I've been cleaning them. So what do I do next then? So next, I weed out parts that need to be replaced. So when I took one of these off, I have a cracked side plate. Well, that's no good. I took off one that has a missing screw on the side plate, and it has a broken oil slot here, so that's going to have to be replaced. And I don't know why I took this one off, but I'm sure there's a reason why that one came off. But at any rate, so I've put them aside. Here's another one. This one has a frozen spool. We've kind of talked a little bit about that. You can't get the spool out of there. That's because the pinion gear has frozen to the spool. That's a problem with salt water. And what you have to do here, maybe I'll do a video on that, although I've done one similar. You pull these 4 screws out. You have to take the eccentric out. You push the whole thing through, and eventually you'll be able to disassemble the jack, the worm, the springs. I said worm, I meant yoke, the springs and everything. You'll come down to where the pinion gear is frozen onto the spool shaft, and either through using a penetrating oil or something like Master Blaster or something like a WD-40 and the like, you'll be able to fix that. I'm also looking in on this one, and I'm seeing that we have severe rust here, so I don't even know if this reel is going to be able to be saved. So at any rate, I take those and I put those off to the side, and then I grab the side plates and I want to do an initial look at those. And in this case, you can see this side plate needs a spring. This eccentric spring is broken, right? So that one will go off to the side, and what I'll do is I'll get to the point where I have all the side plates that are turning the way that they should be, and just need the cleaning, need the drag serviced, take that reel apart completely as you've seen in many of my videos, and start to reinstall, matching these up with the same color side plates. I got 3 different models here. I have the 500S, I have the 500 with the black side plates, I have the 500 with the maroon side plates. So I'll start matching them up and putting them off to the side and considering them complete. At some point, I'm going to wind up with about, I'm going to guess, 60 reels. That simple service and cleaning is enough. Then I'm going to have probably 20 reels like this that have broken string in them, that have broken springs on them, that have other things that are going to require a little bit more time and attention to detail, and probably the ordering of parts. And that's why I leave it for then. I want to make sure that when I go for a parts order, that I only order them once. There's no sense working through 10 at a time, saying, okay, this one needs a spring, and then going out and ordering a spring or a drag or whatever it is, only to find out that you're going to do that 6 times or 8 times over. And you know, quite honestly, the cost to ship parts is as much as the darn parts are. You can spend $8 in parts and $7 in shipping. So if you can consolidate your order into a single order, or maybe 2 at max, you're going to spread that shipping out over a greater amount, and it'll be a less percentage of the actual cost of the repair parts. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's a strategy I think I would recommend, regardless of whether you're fixing one reel like a Calcutta, or you're fixing many reels. Have a strategy. Have the strategy that says, I'm going to take the blueprint of the reel or the schematic, I'm going to open it up, I'm going to identify or do a quick diagnosis on it in terms of what the issues may be. I'm going to try and figure out how to reconcile that difference if there is one, and here's my plan in terms of the service, in terms of taking it apart, cleaning it, and reassembling it after it's been oiled and re-lubed. So I'd be interested in your feedback. If you would approach this project differently, that's the way I'm doing it. But that doesn't mean it's the right way or it's the only way, so I'd be interested in your feedback there. I'd also like to hear your comments about this or any other reel you might have any kind of questions on. I try to respond to them. I would really ask that you subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this kind of stuff, particularly because it helps my channel and keeps it vibrant. And also, you won't miss any of the episodes that I post, whether it's Jigmasters or round bait casters or low-profile bait casters or freshwater spinning reels or whatever. I work on a variety, and I would ask you to subscribe to help keep my channel going and keep it vibrant. And then finally, if you have a reel that needs to be repaired, or I guess if you have 80 of them that need to be repaired, drop me a line on my business card email that follows. And I'll be happy to provide you with repair information. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.